All right. Want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We are here live at the State of Health of Hip Hop, and we have a special guest with us. Are you there, special guest?
Yes, I'm right here.
Wonderful, wonderful. We are excited to have here speaking with us today, Dr. Rashida Clegg, and I'm just going to give her a little bit of a platform for today, and I want to tell you a little bit about her. Dr. Clegg is a psychotherapist that has a PhD in counseling psychology. Yes, she has been practicing for over 10 years, and there's a lot of different things she's worked with. She's worked with grief and loss patients, substance abuse, and I'm going to kind of give it to you so you can kind of tell us a little bit more about, what you've done, because you've kind of done a lot.
Well, just want to thank you, first of all, for inviting me onto your show. I truly appreciate it.
Tell the viewers where you're actually communicating from right now. You're in D.C., right?
Yeah, I'm in Washington, D.C.
No doubt.
I practice in Southeast and in Northwest Washington, D.C. So, kind of reaching all the different wards and everything.
Absolutely. That's what's up. We're trying to take it worldwide. Okay.
There you go.
Absolutely. So, give us a little bit more about what you do and the kind of clients that you've worked with.
So I have worked with an array of clients. I actually started off with children and families, working in terms of trauma and grief counseling. I've done substance abuse. I've done working with returning citizens. Okay. And also domestic violence clients, and so substance abuse as well. So I just try to focus on the whole person.
Okay, absolutely. That holistic mindset. I like it. So today we're here talking with Rival, who is actually an abuse or addiction survivor who does music. And we have a lot of people out here who need that information that you have to provide. So again, thank you for coming in. One of the questions that we have for you is, if a person has been sexually abused and doesn't really feel comfortable, seeking clinical help, you know how we are. I don't need no help. I'll be fine. Aspirin fix everything. No.
Yes.
Like, no, it really doesn't. What options are available, outside of clinical, if any? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one thing I like to tell people is that, especially women, we try to see ourselves as super women, and we can do all things, and we don't necessarily need help from others, but all of us need help at some time. And if you're not open to receiving clinical help, you can go to your clergy, you can go to social services. There's a lot of other options. You can go to national help hotlines that can provide you services as well, and you can be anonymous when you call. So there's other options that are out there, but clinically trained options are probably what's going to be the most helpful, because they know how to walk you through the entire process.
Okay. And I think that's important for people to hear, because there's always going to be different sources that you can get information from, but sometimes people are stigmatized because they get information from the wrong source. You can go to your friends, you can go to church, but at the same time, is that person really trained in what they're giving you advice on? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And sometimes when people aren't actually trained, they may unintentionally give you the wrong type of advice and make the situation worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, you're here first here right now. Don't be afraid. Break that wall. Everybody needs help sometimes. So don't be afraid to get clinical help. I think, this is just my personal opinion, it's good to have those other things that you just accessed, okay, yeah, your church, your support group, 1-800 numbers, you can be anonymous. I think those are good things to use as support. But I think if you really are in a situation where you really need help, I think you need a trained professional. That's just what I think. So
absolutely. And always, if there's a safety concern and you're actively involved in a domestic violence or abusive situation, call 911.
There you go. Don't be afraid. You know the number. What Flavor Flav say, 911 is a joke. And, it's not a joke in D.C. They sometimes have to use that. Florida too. Right. Florida too. I'm just joking. But another question that we have for you here is, because some people really don't know what to consider quote unquote abuse. If they've grown up with it, they may think that this is like normal activity because they've experienced it their whole life. So could you kind of help us understand what are some noticeable risk factors or patterns that are involved in a relationship that turns abusive?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sometimes when an individual is engaged in the act of abuse, it's hard for them to see what's actually occurring in the relationship. There are some telltale signs, though. However, isolation from family and friends. That individual might kind of put you against your family members in a certain way, and so you want to be just concerned about that.
Okay.
In addition, controlling behavior, jealousy, individuals who kind of maybe act aggressively or verbally aggressively, or in terms of their hypersensitivity to your actions. So they might take your phone, or they might be concerned about where your whereabouts. All of those things are something to just kind of alert you and give a red flag to maybe this is turning into an abusive relationship.
And I think it's important that you say that, because I think a lot of people sometimes we're used to, because we have parents. So sometimes your parents want to know where you are, and we mistake that for care and concern when somebody wants to ask those questions like, why aren't you here? Let me see your phone. Like they try to disguise that as they were concerned about you, but they're really trying to kind of just know your coordinates,
Right, which is sometimes can be a level of control. Something to just, try to be aware of all those things. And if you have family and friends that are concerned about your relationship and have given you indications that they feel that there may be some concern of abuse, it's, if they can see it, others can see it, it might be time to get some help. Okay.
That makes sense. Okay, well, that's a great response. I'm glad you added to that, because sometimes it's difficult to be able to tell. We have a couple more questions. One question that we have that came in is, are people who are exposed to sexual abuse more likely to become abused again or become abusers themselves?
Well, I think I have the same response to kind of both situations. When any of us don't receive corrective practice or support in terms of change, then it is likely that we're going to repeat the same behavior unless we learn a new behavior to handle our stressors. And so that's where, clinical professionals do come in. If you don't learn something new, you're probably going to repeat the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. That's a hard lesson. But I think a lot of people don't really, since they don't know what to do, they just do what they know.
Exactly.
And that just goes back to why people sometimes they need an idea to go towards, and sometimes you need help. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I really don't know what to do in this situation. And I think that's why this is going to be good for somebody who's listening, because you can't know everything. You just can't. You have to ask questions.
Absolutely. And sometimes we don't take into account, like we might see on TV or hear about someone else's relationship, what the abuse that happened, and maybe they're fine now, or maybe they're not together, but you don't always see the in between, which is maybe they received some help and they are trying to work towards getting out of the relationship, or they're trying to work on the relationship.
Absolutely. And cool. So I think we have two more questions for you. I know you got a busy schedule ahead, so wanted to get that in. So you have a wide array of experiences. So this next question kind of calls you to draw upon a little bit of that. In your experiences, have you seen abuse lead towards addiction more, or addiction lead to abuse? You kind of get what I'm saying when I ask that question?
Yeah, okay, that's a little tough one. Let me think. Well, I probably, in my experience, I have seen more the abuse lead to the addiction. However, it's kind of like a chicken and an egg sometimes, which one comes first. Right. So what I would say to that is, when we try to self-medicate in a lot of different ways in our lives, and sometimes abuse can lead to addiction, but it's also could just be a cry for help. And so if you notice that a friend of yours is all of a sudden, gradually or progressively becoming drinking more heavily or more often, then that may be a red flag to say, hey, that person might, really need your support right now.
Yeah. It's so tough because, we're all trying to seek that balance. But realistically, if you really think about it, and I'm going to speak personally from a man's experiences, when guys go through stuff, you hear that stuff like, man, suck it up, be a man. And it's like, okay, you lose your job, be a man. The only thing I think really men are actually able to, show emotion or cry about is like someone has to die. And it's a shame that if your child's in the hospital and fearing a death, or your parents die, I think that's the only time guys are really allowed to show emotion. I think every time else, a lot of times they're just being told to be a man. I just think that's so unhealthy.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. If we try to promote emotional well-being and expression of feelings with our male youth and within our families, I think that people would be much more comfortable working out their problems and their conflict with, open communication, and maybe not engage in such aggressive behaviors.
There you go. I think that connects into why, why is he so angry? Well, probably can't communicate all of the feelings and emotions that he's having because he's told that you're not supposed to, so I think you're absolutely right on that. We had one more question. I appreciate you so much for coming on. I think we got some good information for the viewers and listeners as well. This last question, it's really good stuff. This last question, and it may seem like, why would you ask that question? Everybody knows what to do. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's like saying everybody knows how to fight until you get hit. Depending on the type of battle and when it comes at you, you don't know how to fight every battle that comes your way. And abuse and addiction, I don't think people really see those battles coming. So it's not something that you necessarily know what to do once you get hit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this is for those people who have been hit. If I am being abused or have been abused in the past, how do I get help?
Well, everyone's situation is going to be a little different. And given the history and the intensity of the abuse, you might have to use different types of escape or resources. And so I think it's really important to find either an agency or a self in terms of like networking, or that could be one of the national hotlines that can help support you, or an actual clinician. Right. And so they can help develop an escape plan to get out of the situation, and a contingency plan on the escape plan. Because sometimes plan A doesn't work out the way we want. But some things to consider are, of course, how are you going to physically live without, that type of environment, and really reinvent yourself and start life over again. Okay,
I got to follow up on a couple of things, because I people want to act like they understand. Y'all watch the movies and they say an escape plan. Only thing y'all know how to do is escape is run. I think a lot of people's like, what escape means run. Escape doesn't necessarily mean run.
Exactly. If it was that simple, I think people would not spend so long in abusive relationships. It's quite complicated, actually, for a lot of individuals. You might have children to consider. Right. You might have a business together. You might not have a home or someone or a place to go to once you leave. Okay. And so you want to have like your birth certificate, your driver's license, all of the things that you might need to start fresh again, with you on hand, and how you might logistically be able to accomplish that is part of the escape plan, and that's where professionals come in to help you execute that plan.
Absolutely. Now, I think that's why a lot of people really don't try to leave those situations, because they really don't know what to do. Because once you have children with them and you're scared of what's going to happen to the children, because that individual isn't mentally stable themselves, I think they become so overwhelmed sometimes that they don't seek the help and they just take the abuse, which is sad.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, no one wants to be in that situation, even though they may come back to the relationship over and over again. It's not that they want to stay in that relationship, but they may not really know how to permanently leave.
Right, right. And a clinician like yourself or a hotline or something of that nature could help tremendously. So thank you so much. I think this has been great, guys. I appreciate y'all coming and the viewers who are viewing this online as well. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you got some very good information. I know we here are really appreciative of what you've shared with us. So thank you again, Dr. Clegg.
Thank you so much.
All right. We will see you sometime in D.C. I need to go see a basketball game up there. I don't know if y'all record too good, but.
All right. Come and check us out.